to be able to just make a choice on your own and just be able to speak for yourself.
This one's wife, another estranged family member. Like many narcissists, this one's wife just uses people. And she has been no different with regard to friends and particularly family. She has nothing more to do with her father, her half-sister, or her half-brother. She has nothing to do with many of her in-laws. She took what she needed from these individuals and then has disengaged from them, deeming them surplus to requirements or too troublesome to keep under control on a regular basis, and therefore she has cast them to one side. There's another family member who has decided to speak to the press, talking about how he has found himself similarly estranged, notwithstanding the fact that he speaks favourably of her. Ruth Stiles writes for the Daily Mail. She's now one of the most photographed women in the world, but back in 1981, she made her debut to a much smaller fan base. Pictured in dailymail.com photos, this is this one's wife shown as a newborn, cradled in the loving arms of her maternal grandmother, Jeanette. A second photo shows her peering up at the camera, cosy in a black hoodie, and bearing a striking resemblance to her own 5-year-old son Archie at the same age. Speaking in an exclusive interview with dailymail.com, the now Duchess of Sussex's cousin, Sean Johnson, 43, said, "She was always really sweet. She was kind, and she always had a star quality about her. She was infectious with just the way she was, and really mature for her age. She was always really looking after us and making sure that we're all doing fine." Sean is the son of Joseph Johnson, this one's wife's maternal uncle, who died aged 72 of congestive heart failure in August 2021, and probably someone that this one's wife didn't bother with. Although the pair lost contact in their early 20s, Sean says he hopes to get back in touch with his cousin, I wouldn't hold your breath, mate, who is currently estranged from everyone in her family, with the exception of her mother Doria, husband and children. Photos show this one's wife interacting with her family as a child make the estrangement all the more baffling, particularly in the case of her father Thomas, seen with his arms wrapped around her in one of dailymail.com's exclusive photos. The pair have not spoken since her April 2018 wedding, when the retired lighting director suffered a heart attack and cancelled his plans to attend at the last minute. At the same time, he was exposed by the Mail on Sunday as having staged a series of paparazzi photos, among them shots of him getting messaged for a suit and jogging near his home in Rosarito, Mexico. Thomas, who has never met Prince Harry or his grandchildren Archie and Lilibet, has since become increasingly outspoken, desperately pleading with his daughter to let him see her, all to no avail. But during this one's wife's childhood, he was the axis on which her world turned, along with her mother Doria. Sean paints a portrait of a very happy family, one that had this one's wife as its centre, which of course is precisely what she'd want, and saw her lavished with a private education, residual benefit, and treated to luxury vacations in Hawaii, residual benefits, as well as a transatlantic trip to London, where she was famously photographed outside Buckingham Palace with her childhood best friend Ninaki Priddy, although later going on to claim she knew nothing about the royal family. Among dailymail.com's cache of photos are shots of the future Duchess of Sussex beaming on the beach in Hawaii, as well as enjoying a trip to Disneyland, a far cry from the modest upbringing she claimed she had in a 2021 letter to Congress, where she described having worked from age 13 and having to make ends meet. Revision of history. Of course, once again, this demonstrates her propensity for telling lies and how this information exposes that she held herself out as having a difficult and impoverished childhood, when in actual fact, it wasn't the case. In that missive, this one's wife claimed her parents had struggled to afford a $4.99 Sizzler salad bar meal for her. But according to her cousin, she definitely had enough. Sean explained, "I don't think any of us were really well off, but we had enough. She definitely had enough." He added, "Doria loved her a lot. We could see that. And we all loved her, and we're happy that her life turned out the way it did for her. I think Sean's after a bit of dough. Sean, who lives in California, told Daily Mail he hasn't seen his cousin in nearly 2 decades, but remembers their joint childhoods being very happy. The embroiderer and graphic designer said, "We used to go down there for all the holidays and go to Los Angeles and visit them. We'd be at my grandmother's house and we'd all get together. We all had a pretty good childhood growing up." This one's wife definitely helped make that childhood great. She was a big part of it. It was really nice just going out there for the holidays, hanging out with her. We just had this feeling that she was going to do something amazing. Well, telling lies, revising history, only being known for marrying a prince, I suppose all of that's amazing. We didn't know what, but we were still shocked by what she actually did. He added, "I have no bad memories. Not anything of her having any weird attitude issues or anything like that. She was always just really, even later in the teenage years, she was really mature and kind of ahead of the curve." Now, of course, what he may be experiencing is his own rose-tinted view of childhood and his memory somewhat fallible, but also the likelihood of having been exposed to the facade. Because remember, that's something that a non-intimate secondary source, he as a family member, will be exposed to a narcissist even such a long time ago. It then talks about the controversies that this one's wife was involved in. We needn't have a repetition of that. And it talks about the South Park mocking, etc. Despite the controversy that follows his cousin, Sean says he thinks some of the criticism has gone too far, and says he's horrified by some of what he reads online. He said some of the stuff is just so harsh, and I know it's fake. You just try to chalk it up to internet culture, and that's just the way people are around celebrities. I've even seen stories about me. There's an article. It's not one of the popular stories, but this said that me and this one's wife were dating or something like that. It's a picture where we were young at the time and she had just, I don't know, a little belly or whatever. We were just kids, but people were speculating on TikTok. Sean added there was another story where she was doing some kind of charity work or whatever, and then people just said, "Oh, that's fake." Or she's just doing that for attention. She just can't do anything right whatsoever. I always remember her as the person who couldn't really do too much wrong. It's so strange to see it switched up. Thus, this estranged family member has a favourable view of her, probably just wanting to say this to get a bit of recognition and maybe a bit of payment from the Mail for his interview. Possibly done to try and suggest that she has changed and been corrupted as a consequence of the fame that she's enjoyed. But as you all know, that's got nothing to do with this. The fact is that she is the way that she is because of her narcissism. And it does, of course, provide another opportunity for the Mail to demonstrate that she has told big fibs about her childhood by suggesting that she didn't have a very good upbringing in terms of finances, etc., and opportunities, and to demonstrate that actually she did. But what do people below the line think about all of this? What do they think about the fact that here is a cousin who's saying that she was a decent human being when she was a lot younger? Elizabeth May. I think most people suspected she had a good upbringing and wanted for nothing. She wanted us to believe she was poor. She needs to make amends with her dad. He didn't do anything that was remotely worse than she has done to the royal family. Dobby. To be honest, I don't really care. She's lied about everything else. Bruno Banani. She forgot who was paying so she could become the actress. Shop assistant. Now that these photos have been published, he'll probably hear from her through her lawyer very shortly. Ocean floor. She's an ungrateful person, never happy unless she's running everyone else down. Cynical. Sean says he hopes to get back in touch with his cousin. Ha ha! Unless you're of some use to her, you can forget about any reunion. SJ100. She's going to say her dad abused her when he dies. I can feel it. Son of Frey Bentos. Wow, she's certainly changed. Who cares? Megsy never tells the truth. I put money on how she was earning when she was an actress. G-Fall. Not of any interest whatsoever. Go away once for all. You and Harkle. He then continues. He shouldn't hold his breath about her getting in touch. They live in the same state, especially now he's revealed these photographs. Pick How to Breed a Narc 101. Emily Oxford, I'm so glad others can see it. Once you have seen NPD, you can recognise it at once. Zippity Doodah, estranged from every family member on both her mother's side and her father's side, with the exception of her mother. Incredibly bizarre. Well, it's not actually when you understand that it's the behaviour of a narcissist. Jane Doe, where was her mum and why did she leave her for years? Tony225, I thought she was so poor she couldn't afford a decent school meal, even though her father had a very well-paid job in Hollywood and brought her up. So which story is true this time? Kay, one of the many family members this one's wife did not invite to her wedding. Family means nothing to her. More observations from people, none of which are favourable, all pointing out her various lies, hypocrisies, and how she isn't a very pleasant human being. A family member who remembers her in a favourable way, likely the recipient of her facade, and unable to reconcile what is said about her now with what he remembers of her. An individual, of course, who clearly doesn't understand what she is. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.